Alright, 33ers, I'm not telling you to follow these rules, but I would be curious to know if you have any guidelines that you follow when it comes to record collecting. After you watch this video, let me know in the comments.
Channel 33 RPM.
My first rule of record collecting is if I walk into a store and I see a rare record I want, to buy it without hesitating, because inevitably if I go back a day or two later to get it, that record will be gone. And I learned that the hard way multiple times. I remember once about 9 years ago, I walked into a record store and I found a still sealed copy of Van Halen Balance. It was on the Wow wall for $50 or $55. And I paused and I hesitated and I thought $55 is too much to pay for that record, so I left. Of course, I went back a day or two later and the record was gone. And today it's probably worth 10 times that $50. Another example is probably 7 years ago, I went to a record show and one of the vendors there had a copy of Motley Crue's Too Fast for Love, third pressing on the original Leather Records label. And he wanted $105 for it. And I picked it up, I examined it, and I thought, I can never justify spending $105 on that record. And now, again, that one is worth many, many times that $100. And I don't think that's the one and only time I've ever seen that record in the wild. I don't expect I'll ever see it in the wild again, and definitely not for that price. So I learned some lessons the hard way. But now if I see a record that's a grail, just grab it, man. Just grab it. If down the road I decide I don't want it, I can easily make my money back by just selling it again. All right, my second rule, and this applies to buying used records, is generally to never buy a record in less than VG plus condition. I know some record collectors say they love the snap, crackle, and pop of a record. I dislike the snap, crackle, and pop. The records I own, I want to be as clean as possible. I want them to be in pristine condition or close to pristine. VG plus. I mean, again, with all these rules, there are exceptions. If I run across a rare record that I've never seen before, it's in VG condition, I've always wanted it, I'd be stupid to let it go. In other cases, I may buy a VG record just to use as a placeholder until I can find a better copy. But as a general rule of thumb, when it comes to used records, VG plus is kind of, I won't go below VG plus. All right, 33ers, one of the rules I follow in life is to buy quality products. If you're looking for quality record storage cabinets, may I suggest you check out Sidetracked Workshop, the sponsor of today's video. These record storage cabinets are gorgeous. This is not flat-packed, bolt-together furniture. These cabinets come to you fully assembled. We're talking high-quality, all-wood construction, handcrafted in the USA by Sidetracked Workshop. You spend a lot of time and money on your record collection. Show it off in style with these beautiful cabinets. 33ers, head over to sidetrackedworkshop.com to learn more. And when you're ready to buy, use code channel33 for a 10% discount. And don't worry about shipping. It's free in the US. Now back to the show. All right, rule number 3. This comes down to money. And I don't want to focus on money too much because we've all talked about this. We've all complained about the rising cost of records and no one's a fan of it. But for myself anyway, I had to draw a line in the sand. And generally, I won't spend more than $40 Canadian on a new record. And $40 Canadian is equal to about $30. Any more than that, I really have to think about it. I've spent, like for a double LP, maybe $45 Canadian, but it has to be a really special record for me to invest that much money. Used records are an exception, right? I mean, I don't have a ceiling for used records. If you're seeking a grail that's super rare, it might be worth spending a couple $100, right? The same applies to deluxe editions of records and super deluxe editions of records. Obviously, those are going to be more than $40, but for a run-of-the-mill single or double record, $40. That's my ceiling, man. All right, number 4, and this one applies strictly to me. Most people do not follow this particular rule, and that's totally cool. But rule number 4 for me is not to spend any additional money for a colored version of a record. Ultimately, My favorite records are the old school black vinyl, man. That's what I grew up with. And I like black vinyl for a number of reasons. One is because you can easily see the dust on it, right? You know how clean that record is. Number two, you can see the grooves easier and the space between the tracks. Just all around, it works for me. That said, if I can find a cool colored record, and the color is an important part of the packaging because it matches the same color scheme as the cover or whatever, then I may go for it. But as I said, I won't spend extra money on colored vinyl because I'm good with the plain old black discs. All right, number 5, and this is a rule I've really come to follow only in the past couple of years, and that is to avoid blind buys. I used to like blind buys, right? Just finding a record at the store with cool packaging, cool artwork, and thinking, I wonder if the music matches the coolness of this album artwork, or even from my favorite artist, right? If an artist I dig was putting out an album, I would automatically buy it without previewing it or hearing any of it. Unfortunately, again, going back to the money, if I'm spending $40 on a record, it becomes a little more tricky or challenging to do a blind buy because I want to make sure I'm getting good value for my money. And by good value, I want to make sure I'm going to like that album. So I try to avoid blind buys. I try to preview the music, see if I like it, and I think, is this an album I'm going to listen to more than 10 times? Then I'm getting my value, I'm getting my money's worth. If I listen to it less than 10 times, maybe I'll be better off just streaming it. I don't know. That's kind of the mental thought process I go through. But nowadays, for me, blind buys can be tricky. Number 6, and again, this is a frank rule. This is just for myself. But in general, I avoid buying 7-inch singles. I don't dislike 7-inch singles per se. I mean, I find them a bit annoying, I guess, because this is super lazy of me, but I'm not a huge fan of getting up every 3 to 4 minutes to flip a little record over. But more so, I generally avoid 7-inch records, 7-inch singles, just because it's another rabbit hole, right? I can't collect everything, so I limit myself to 12-inch LPs. If I got into 7-inch singles, man, I'm not sure if I'd ever stop buying records. There's just so much cool stuff there. But yeah, for those 2 reasons, I generally avoid 7-inch singles. I have a handful in my collection, but it's not something I purposely seek out unless it's something super cool or something rare or something I feel I really need to get on those shelves. And my number 7 rule for record collecting is I avoid buying counterfeit records. And I want to be specific with the words I'm using here. I do buy bootlegs and gray area records, which I'm generally okay with. So by bootlegs, I mean, for example, right now you can buy a lot of those radio broadcasts from the 80s. A lot of them are coming out of Europe, which I think they are legal there, but I'm not sure how legal they are over here. So I'm okay with that. I buy a lot of radio broadcasts and stuff that can't be purchased through official channels. When I say bootlegs, I mean reproductions of hard to find albums. So for example, one album I've been looking for forever and I'll never get at a good price is Kiss's Sonic Boom. But there are a ton of bootleg versions out there. I just don't see the point for myself in getting a bootleg version because it's not an official version. It's likely just pressed from the CD or maybe from like a online digital file or whatever. And I'm not convinced it's going to sound great, and it doesn't really add any value to my collection because it's a fake. It's a bootleg. I know a lot of people dig them. There's a big market for bootlegs, and if that's your thing, more power to you, but it's something that I avoid. All right, 33ers, those are my rules of record collecting. What are your rules? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching. As always, I appreciate your time. Until next time, keep on spinning.